Deep State USA, the FBI doesn't solve crime, it manages crime. The CIA doesn't collect intelligence, it collects people. The courts don't meet justice, they deny it. The news doesn't report the news, they contort it. The deep state doesn't serve, it enslaves. But slavery is a choice. The slave submits. The cage is safe. Chains certain. Freedom is dangerous. The opposite of slavery is freedom. The opposite of a slave is a warrior. The enslaver demands submission. Say as you are told. Do as you are told, or else. The slave submits. A warrior refuses to submit. A warrior is dangerous, free, uncontrollable, unstoppable, relentless. I will never be a slave. I am a warrior. What are you? Also, I'm a retired soldier, special agent and spy turned whistleblower warrior, served and sabotaged, rejected and redeemed, failed and forgiven, betrayed and saved, rejecting revenge, humbled and blessed, repurposed in redemption, as chaplain, leader, teacher, and truth teller. Now, America's intelligence officer, following God, leading my family, and any that choose to join on our long walk to faith and freedom. Welcome. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Hey, welcome everybody. Happy to be with you. Seems like I'm having some trouble here on Twitter. Doesn't seem like that's working, but lots happening today. I do see the chat happening on Rumble. If somebody can give me a heads up that that is working, let me know about that. So special show today with a special guest. Choose freedom, change your status. Israel affirms the occupied Gaza will kill the hostages. Trump sends 100 plus FBI and soldiers to patrol DC nightly. What could go wrong with that? And exit the corporation you were enrolled in at birth. Change your status to unincorporated person. And that will be explained to us by American State Nationals expert BRENT GUNDERSON, whom I personally trust. So jumping right into all of that real quick, though, I get emails from folks. I've had a lot of emails lately on Gaza and on the former Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel Aguilar whistleblowing. And some are real positive, and some are taking me to task for not just praising him. And I think he's telling the truth, but I'm also going to say that he seemed to have been fired. There's certainly death, murder going on there, but I'm just trying to bring a balanced perspective as always. But one email is from a former peer, and I'm not going to reveal who that is, but he said, "Damn fine briefing again." He's referring to my recent interview with Mike Adams. Think how back far this FEEB, that means the FBI's crap, goes. When the FEEB started taking DEA embassy slots overseas years ago, keep up the great work. Exemplified by the FEEB SOP for handling and not controlling their CIs, or often the FEEBs cover for ATF while ATF for stupid shit cannon fire. This is very true. I've talked about many times how if you've got a high-level informant, they'll start running you unless you know how to run them. Also got an email from a Gregory Lyakov, and I guess he is the youngest. He says he is the youngest nationally syndicated person. And he says, "Hi, Jeffrey. The moment you called out the desperate need for depedoization in America, your episode really hit home. Your directness in challenging the status quo, that's really great. And I appreciated your lively back and forth with Kirk Wald. I hope you'll have me on the show. As the youngest nationally syndicated columnist in the country, I spent years writing for outlets like the Wall Street Journal, The Hill. I haven't done that. And then he goes into my advocacy for school choice, and then we go against anti-Semitism. Has put me in the room with folks like Charlie Kirk and Governor Christie Noem, been on Fox and Friends, Newsmax, passionate about equipping Americans with information that gets past the noise. Got a 50,000 person following. And I'd love to guess. So I wrote him back. I said, "How old are you?" He didn't write me back. But just as I've been criticized and attacked for telling the entire truth about Lieutenant Colonel Aguilar, the whistleblower, I've gotten a lot of criticism from Zionists of my criticism of the Israeli government and the murder that's going on in Gaza. And I showed you some of these emails, but this email is very interesting because he is supported by Israel and highly published in Israel. So that's who's backing him. And it's real interesting because he said, I really appreciated the lively back and forth with Kirk Wall. The only problem was Kirk didn't come on that day. So he didn't really see the show. He didn't really discover me. Someone is handling him, someone who is pro-Israel. And I had that other email, I think I showed you, that real pro-Israel guy as well. So I've got their attention. I'm on target. That means I'm on track. That's really good. No problem. Hey, remember, I'm going to be in Iowa September 13th. That's my only in-person speech this year with Team America Iowa to end human trafficking and transhumanism and tyranny. And you can call 712-389-0717, 712-389-0717 to join me there, along with Team America Iowa and a lot of other great speakers as well. So also get your Stay Brewed coffee, staybrewed.com, or teamamericacoffee.com is really good. They are big sponsors of the show, Christian constitutionalists. Lori and Craig Wire with their wonderful 7 daughters. I've had them on the show. And support the show at jeffreyprather.com or go to patreon.com/jeffreyprather and sign up at the $5, $15, or $25 level. So today, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be revealing is at the Psy Warrior $15 a month level, for example. But first, let's get to why Israel wants the Gaza hostages dead. So Israel has announced that they are going to occupy, boots on the ground all the time inside Gaza, and that will lead to the killing of the remaining hostages. And the Israeli families that have hostages still are really protesting this and are against this. It's the Hostages and Missing Families Forum that advocates for the captives are saying the Israeli government is sentencing the living hostages to death and the fallen hostages to disappearance by announcing a takeover of Gaza. These are Israelis saying this, okay? And I agree with that because Israel, Mossad, Sayeret, that's Israeli Special Forces, Shin Bet, that's the Internal Security, FBI, and Netanyahu are systematically murdering the remaining witnesses to the October 7th stand down. And the first taken were the all-female border watcher unit, who were warning the headquarters hires for over a year about this. So they don't, it's against the law now in Israel to question the narrative, even though I declared this, I called this, and then General Flynn confirmed it. General Flynn's getting a lot of publicity for it. But what they're doing is making sure that there are no witnesses remaining to this. That is my take on that. I'm sure I'll get more problem from that. Fed up with the Fed government, what can I get into and start helping with in Florida? You can join Team America. Team Florida is a functional team, not as big as they were, but fed up with Fed government, go to jeffreyprather.com, join Team America. Americans relying on God and each other, just like when we started, not corrupt government in Britain, just like we're not going to rely on corrupt government in DC. We are not militia, we are resistance. So go to jeffreyprather.com and join Team America there. And also, Trump sends 100+ FBI agents to patrol DC at night, along with a lot of National Guard who are assigned under them. And most of these are from the Washington field office, the same corrupt FBI office that ran January 6th. Remember, I graduated the FBI Academy in 1990. I'm friends with FBI Miami gunfight hero Ed Morales, who said he wouldn't talk to the FBI today. So is it a good thing that FBI agents from the, especially from the Washington field office, are running around the streets of DC with soldiers under their command at night? No, it's not a good thing. They're going to be able to do whatever they want. They're going to create more false flags. And that Trump doesn't see this or is going along with it is very, very concerning and very, very telling. And I just can't believe that he can't see this, because, of course, what are they coming out with right now? It's all about Russia gates. So they're saying most of the duties will be pulled from the regular duties at the Washington field office, which is probably good, but then they'll be out in the field making more mischief. So the FBI needs to be cut back to nothing or abolished, just like the CIA does. It's not happening. Trump seems to think that that's okay, even though Patel just caused a stir the other day because he found out that his private jet pilot for his FBI jet is the former FBI HRT commander who led the Mar-a-Lago raid. So that guy's been listening to him for 6 months. So they're totally infiltrated. They don't understand that because they're talking heads. He was never an agent. Bongino was an agent. He was a Secret Service agent, but he's become a talking head. He doesn't really know what he's talking about. And they are, very, very incompetent here. X is not working today. I don't know why that is. I did my usual thing. So you're only going to be able to comment right now on Rumble. But anyway, also, CIA leakers are weaponizing sources and methods, talking points to target the DNI. The DNI is the Director of National Intelligence. I stood outside the Director of National Intelligence office quite a bit when I was DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon CIA. We're for intelligence to protect the country, where the CIA is supposedly intelligence for the president. The DIA is mostly military, much better folks. They go to the same school as well. But the fact that the intelligence community, the deep state, is coming after Gabbard is a good sign. And they're coming after Gabbard because she is releasing the unclassified, but it was not released report about Russiagate, which really exposes how the intelligence community blackmailed and set up Trump. But there's nothing new about that. They're acting like this is new, but that they're coming after her is a good sign. That means she's actually doing something. This is the House report on the HPSI report, the House Internal Intelligence Community, CIA, DNI, House Intelligence report on Russiagate. That too is at my patreon.com at the Warrior $15 a month level if you want to see that. But that's something good that she seems to be one of the few in the Trump staff that is actually standing up for anything at all. And Bohica, that means in military terminology, bend over, here it comes again, is China has a chikungunya mosquito-borne virus problem, and they are locking everyone down. Now, Bill Gates is trying to pull that same thing. He and the government have been releasing mosquitoes to do exactly the same thing. But China is locking down. Will America lock down? I don't think so. I just don't think people are going to fall for that again. But they would like to be able to lock everybody down. And Bill Gates' mosquito lab certainly look suspicious for that, but it doesn't seem to be successful at all. So those are the important intelligence aspects. But I want to get into my subject and my guest. And so again, at the patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather, $15 a month level, The Modern Slave is a great Substack by Joshua Steinman. And he quotes Dostoevsky: the best way to keep a prisoner from escaping is to make sure he never knows he is in prison. And he's talking about the invisible shackles. The genius of contemporary slavery isn't the whip, it's the W-2. It's not the chain, it's the mortgage payment. It's not the overseer with a gun, it's the IRS agent with a lien. You surrender 30 to 50% of your labor before you ever see it. If you refuse, men with guns will eventually arrive at your door. The extraction is comprehensive and inescapable. Earn money, pay income tax, own property, pay property tax, spend money, pay sales tax, save money, lose to inflation tax, invest successfully, pay capital gains tax, start a business, pay for licenses, run a profitable business, pay corporate tax, give money away, pay gift tax, die with assets, pay inheritance tax, Every economic action becomes a revenue opportunity for the system that owns your labor. And I remember working with an IRS special agent. And I'd walk into a warehouse in Nogales. I'd say, "Hey, DEA," and they'd be used to seeing DEA badges all the time. But then when the IRS guy showed his badge and creds, then they got really scared. So you can't opt out of funding wars you oppose, surveillance systems that monitor you, or even bureaucracies that regulate your choices. Property can be seized for unpaid taxes, even if you own it outright. Historical slaves knew they were enslaved. The violence was visible, the coercion obvious, the enemy identifiable. Today's slaves are convinced they're consumers. But here's the real masterpiece. You've been convinced this is freedom. This is the comfortable cage that I talked about at the beginning of the show. The cage isn't just bigger now, it's learning. When AI systems can predict your needs before you feel and shape your choices, you're not using technology, you're being optimized by it. But the technological cage is only half the story. We're witnessing the colonization of human biology itself. And I know this from my work, my consulting work in competitive intelligence, in GRIN, in genetics, robotics, information, nanotechnology. The modern slave doesn't surrender their labor, they surrender their cells. Your nervous system is being mapped, your DNA collected. When 23andMe filed for bankruptcy, it left 15 million DNA samples vulnerable to creditors. While officials like Netanyahu openly announced genetic database plans, and Congressman Crow warned about DNA-targeted bioweapons, which is what started the whole Ukraine military special operations in the first place. When RFK announced universal wearables within 4 years, the infrastructure required, regardless of stated health goals, represents the final component of comprehensive biological surveillance that permeates legal records for insurance companies, employees, and courts to weaponize against you. This created a framework for treating citizens as corporate assets. The technological apparatus that perfected the delivery mechanisms, the biological colonization that provided the final substrate for control. Your smartwatch doesn't track your health. Studies show wearables can detect conditions like COVID-19 up to 7 days before symptoms appear, while insurance companies like Jan Hancock offer up to 25% discounts based on your activity data. Your phone just doesn't suggest routes, it knows your behavior patterns as well, based upon your movement data. And so that's why you got to go into jeffreybraither.com into the shop and get your Faraday bags to bag up so you are not tracked. Get those, and you've got to have those. That's very important. The modern slave isn't just compliant, they're predicted, pre-approved, and programmed for the life the system has chosen. It's kind of like the Matrix. Alongside the invisible system, the old brutalities persist. Children mine cobalt in the Congo. Human trafficking generates 150 billion annually. That's why I'm going to Iowa to talk about that. Millions remain trapped in debt. What makes this form of slavery I'm describing unique in history is not its cruelty, but its invisibility. Traditional slavery, both historic and contemporary, relies on obvious coercion. Resistance means physical punishment. The slavery of the developed world operates through what we might call the white glove model, polished, comfortable, marketed as a benefit rather than bondage. Modern slaves are told they're consumers. The plantation owner never convinced his slaves to change for jewelry, but the modern Apple Watch has. The Congolese warlord doesn't pretend the cobalt mine is a wellness center, but we've convinced that surveillance is safety, that debt is prosperity, that algorithmic control is empowerment. Traditional slavery was economically inefficient. You had to house, feed, and guard your property. Modern slavery is self-maintaining. The slaves pay for their own monitoring devices, compete for their positions, and attack anyone who suggests they're not free. You celebrate when your smartwatch tells you to exercise. You feel grateful when your phone suggests the fastest routes. You trust algorithms to curate your news, your entertainment. We've been conditioned to love our cages so thoroughly that questioning them feels like madness. The economic architecture of modern slavery operates through the systemic conversion of citizens into corporate assets. The legal frameworks established after the 1871 created foundation for treating people as revenue-generating entities rather than sovereigns. Now, pay attention to this because this is going to come back with my guest. Because again, presenting the problem, but I'm always presenting option, solution, and answers as well. The financial enslavement operates through debt that can never be repaid because the money used to pay it is itself debt as well. That is the Fed, which is not part of the US government. It's a lien against your future productivity. The central bank digital currencies represent programmable money that can expire. Anything that is required on electronics doesn't always work, and it can go down. Perhaps most brilliantly, the system has convinced its slaves to fight each other instead of recognizing the brutality of the system. Identity capture through biometric bases, data processing, interface elimination, cognitive control, economic dependency, biological integration. This isn't a cultural gift. It's not accidental. This is weaponized psychology, and the patents are the smoking gun. There's a U.S. patent 6506148B2, nervous system manipulated by electronic fields from monitors, which is why we talk about the halo or electromagnetic bioluminescence in the chaplaincy so much at christchaplaincy.com. There's the silent subliminal presentation patent. There's the remote monitoring and alteration of brainwaves patent. What MK Ultra did with electrodes and LSD, modern technocrats do with earbuds and screen time. The modern slave doesn't just carry tracking devices, they carry consciousness control tools disguised as entertainment. The enforcement doesn't come through jackbooted thugs, but through bureaucratic strangulation. The right to exist is a fundamental human right, and to self-determination. And if you want to leave one of these systems, was just trying to leave Cuba or Nazi Germany, there is a flight tax for leaving any of that. So I hope this is making sense to you, because it's very, very important. And we need to be aware of this. So consider the child who's learning to feel through mood tracking apps, never develops internal emotional awareness. I see this all the time with my kid students. We've created psychological cripples. People are practiced at reading social cues and adjusting their thoughts accordingly, but who have never learned to form independent judgments. Most devastatingly, we've created human beings who literally cannot conceive of unmeditated existence. We're not just surveilling them, we are programming them. The first step towards freedom is recognizing the control grid, not metaphorically, literally. Examine your legal documents. Notice the capitalization patterns, how you've been incorporated in these systems since birth. You're not living your life, you're performing a script written by systems. That's why I say they're scripted and scripters. Historical slavery relied on external conversion. Slaves knew they were enslaved even when they were powerless to resist. Modern slaves have surrendered their decision-making processes to systems that predict their choices, curate their information, and shape their desires. The first step to freedom is admitting you're not already free and recognizing the cage. So that is really important. So that's the big problem today. But again, always answer, solution, and options for getting out of that. And that's what my guest, Brent Gunderson, is here for. He is a former Marine, United States Marine. He's a graduate of Blackstone Law School. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a grandfather. He's a great-grandfather. He's a paralegal. He doesn't practice law because it's a corrupt system. And he is an expert in exiting the system that we were enrolled in on birth, legally, lawfully, and carefully. And he's my personal advisor on this, and somebody I trust and my wife trusts. And I'm actually wearing a tie today so that you could see the gravitas and the seriousness of this show, because I don't want this to be portrayed as any kind of wild-eyed resistance or revolt or something. It's very important that you understand that this is a comprehensive system and that you have to be very careful getting out of that. But that said, thank you, Brent, for waiting and being patient. But I think that was a good overview of the corruption of the system that you can show us how to get out of anyway.
Yeah, very good overview. The main thing we have to understand is who we are. who are we? Are we slave or are we free? Now we're put into slavery through the contracts that we've engaged in. We all went to the public fool system and we learned how to be slaves. We learned how to be compliant. Are taxes mandatory or are they voluntary? All taxes are voluntary. And you have to choose not to volunteer into those contracts. Now, in order to be compliant, you have to notify the IRS of your choice. You have the right to self-determination, and you can choose to be a non-taxpayer. If you look in Title 26 of the United States Code, which is the IRS code, it lists taxpayers and non-taxpayers. And when I read that, I said, non-taxpayers, what are they and how do you get to be one? So I researched all that and found out we have to notify the IRS. So I prepare documents and I notify the IRS in Washington. I notify the Department of Treasury. We notify the IRS in Ogden, Utah. That seems to be a major hub for the IRS organization. And we also notify the state where you live. Most states follow suit with the IRS. So we notify them we choose not to be a taxpayer any longer.
Well, let's back up for a second and talk about the capital letters on the birth certificate and what that means as a corporate personage owned by the state.
Yeah, all your government identification is in all uppercase. And if you look at the style manual for the United States, it says anything in all uppercase refers to a corporation. So when you look at your driver's license, it's in all uppercase. You look at your social security card, it's in all uppercase.
So what's the style manual for the United States government?
Yeah, that's in the style manual. You can reference that, look at that, and that's what it'll say. That refers to a corporation.
But nobody tells parents, nobody tells children that. They don't tell anybody on the birth certificate or on the marriage license or anything why that is in capitals. So people are being tricked, conned by that.
Yeah, there's a scripture that says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge," and that's what's happened. We don't have the knowledge to know who we are. Who are you? Are you that all uppercase name? No, that's really not you. That is an entity the government created to take jurisdiction over you. And if you think that's you, and most of us do, we have entered into contractual obligations through that all uppercase name. So some of the documents, some of the tools that I create are to take charge of that all uppercase name.
Because let me interrupt you again, because I think you're going kind of fast. So because when you were teaching me this, you had to go very slowly, is because under the law, a corporation is considered a person, correct?
Correct. In the beginning, God created man, man created government, and government created a corporation. And the rule of thumb is you cannot be greater than that what created you. So when the government created a corporation in your all uppercase name, they are in control of that. And if you think that's you, that's where we have gotten ourselves into bondage through that all uppercase name. Now we have to learn how to separate ourselves from that all uppercase name. So we create tools to do that. And we use the Uniform Commercial Code. We do that with a UCC financing statement. And we create a power of attorney to function for that all uppercase name. If you were to get a presentment in the mail that had that all uppercase name and you don't think that's you and you open that mail, that's a federal offense. So when we create that power of attorney, that gives you the right to function in that all uppercase name if you do that by mistake somehow. So these are some of the tools we create to maintain our freedom.
Oh, cool. So give me
Now
some of that. I've actually posted the government style manual in the chat that you can actually click on that. So one of the listeners is actually referencing, there's the reference for it. And Phantom 86 says, where can we get the tools to do that? So if you want to get the tools, so I've put in the chat at the very beginning, Brent's email, which is brent10@gmail.com, brent10@gmail.com. I put that in the chat at the very beginning of the chat. If you want to see where to get those tools, it is complicated. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Fine. Feel free at any time. You want to add something or go from there. You bet. Now, what we want to do is create an administrative record. That is our whole purpose. These tools are to create an administrative record. If someone comes along and says you're subject to all this, we want to have an administrative record to indicate that we're not subject. So that's why we do a income tax removal. I create documents to remove you from the income tax. And that is our administrative record. If I'm subject to your tax, provide evidence and I will comply. I deal with these people non-combatively. And when you ask that question, they can never provide evidence because we've already created an administrative record to prove that we're not subject. We send these documents to those places I mentioned, and if they don't rebut and refute those, they are deemed to agree with our record. So we create our own administrative record to remove ourselves from the income tax. We do that for everything. We create an administrative record to change our status from a U.S. citizen to an American state national.
Okay, now please define what those two are under the law.
A U.S. citizen is a citizen of the United States Corporation. We were all born in one of the states.
And there is actually a United States Citizen Corporation, right? I mean, there is actually a United States Corporation.
Yeah, that's who we're deemed. As an example, I got an invitation for jury duty a while ago, and the questions on there are you a resident of Salt Lake County? I put no. I'm not a resident of anywhere. I'm an inhabitant. If you look in the scriptures, nowhere does it use the term resident. It uses the term inhabitant. A resident is if you agree to be a resident, you're agreeing into their contractual jurisdiction. So I never want to be a resident. I want to be an inhabitant. It asked me if I was a U.S. citizen. I put no. I'm an American state national. And it said down there, it gave me a couple of lines. Is there any reason you can't serve on the jury? And I said, if this is a judicial proceeding, I will volunteer my time and serve. However, if this is a commercial enterprise, I will need $250 a day plus any expenses I have. And they didn't pick me. I was disappointed. I wanted to go serve in a judicial capacity, not a commercial one.
Well,
so that was my
difference there? What's the difference there?
All courts are commercial. They all use Federal Reserve notes, makes them a commercial enterprise. They all have fines. They all have, very rarely will you find a judicial proceeding. And I knew that. And so If you have to know how to hold your public servants' feet to the fire and make them function properly. I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-corruption.
And I like one of the things you've always said to me is, if I owe something, I'm really ready to pay it. Just show me where I owe it. Just show me.
That's right. I have proof of claim documents that I submit. If I have an obligation, provide evidence and I will comply.
And so you guide people. People can do this themselves, but it's pretty difficult to do it yourself. And so you either show them the documents or you'll actually help them with the documents. There's two different paths to do this, but for getting it right, people doing it on their own, you could easily get it wrong. I have a friend, an artist friend, who actually tried to do this on his own and went to federal prison. But how many of you've been doing this for 20 years, right?
Yes, I started in 2003 working on this stuff, and little by little, I've kind of progressed and had new things to add and change. It's
How many
constant.
How many people have you helped? How many people estimate that you helped with this?
Oh, over 200.
How many have gone to court?
None. The only ones that have gone to court were the bank, were credit card lawsuits, and they didn't follow the procedure that I recommended. The procedure would be to create your own administrative record, ask for validation and verification of the alleged debt. And when you do that, they will not validate the alleged debt under penalty of perjury, which they must do. That's part of the requirements. Because if you go into court, you have to take the stand and declare under penalty of perjury that these things are true and correct. And you cannot find a banker who will sign a document saying these charges are true and correct. So once you have an administrative record, your answer to the court would be, I motion the court to dismiss this because the plaintiff has failed to exhaust his administrative remedies. Only a court can hear a case when there's a controversy. So what you try and do is eliminate the controversy before you go into court.
Yeah,
that's how I keep my people out of court. You eliminate the controversy. If you can prove that.
And also, they don't want to establish a precedent, right?
Correct. They won't set that precedent. They don't want that on the record.
That's really important.
More
I think,
people
to understand here. This is why Hillary doesn't get charged, Pedo Joe doesn't get charged, or Hunter gets charged with something minor like the gun or something, but none of this real stuff is brought, because if it's brought and it's charged and it's convicted, there is a precedent then. Now, they did it with Trump, where they convicted Trump. Of course, nobody's following the precedent, but they don't want that precedent to happen. Do I have all that right, Brent?
That is correct. Absolutely. That is correct. You won't see anybody winning tax cases in the media. They won't allow that to be published because they don't want to set that precedent. They don't want to give people any encouragement that these things can be dealt with. So you won't see any precedents of them. You'll see a lot of precedents of people going to jail. And the only way you can go to jail is if you say, I don't owe it and I'm not paying. My remedy is, if I owe it, provide evidence and I will pay you. You functioned honorably in that situation and removed any controversy. The scriptures tell us, agree with thine adversary quickly. I'm a big advocate of that. But I will agree with you on proof of claim. We failed to ask them to prove up their position. We take that as being gospel. So that's one of the things you have to be aware of, is learning how to establish a proof of claim. Make them establish their proof of claim before you comply. I'll comply upon proof of claim.
And what about following their forms or using their forms?
Using their forms, I don't like to use their forms because that puts you in under their language and their system. You want to use your own language because the language system has been distorted, and they trick you into another contract with their language system. So I always use my own language system and my own notice and demand for them to give me some information.
So the initial enrollment happens with a birth certificate, which is in all capitals, and then the next one. Where's the next one happen with Social Security, and then the next one with marriage certificates?
Yeah, all these are contracts. Very few people know that when you get a marriage license, the state has anything that's been produced by that marriage, so they control all your offspring. And I had a client call me one time and said, "I'm worried about the Department of Family Services coming and taking my children." So what we did with her was file a UCC financing statement for $200 million on her children, because she'd given them love, she'd given them food and clothes and raised them, and she's entitled to collect for that consideration. And she called me about 9 months later and said, "This situation has been resolved. Thank you very much." So these are some of the tools you can use to protect yourself. This is a commercial protection using the UCC financing statement. And that's one of the tools we create to give you commercial protection. Another tool we create is an unincorporated business trust. You want to remove your name from functioning in commerce as much as possible. Create this other tool called an unincorporated business trust. And it is basically a private contract in the form of a trust. It is not a statutory trust. A statutory trust holds property until you die. This type of a trust actually owns the property. So you transfer all your property into this type of a trust with a bill of sale, and you become the trustee. The trustee has total power and control of the assets put in that trust. The object is to own nothing but control everything. And that is another tool we use to protect you commercially. So when someone comes after you and wants to sue you, whether it's the government or want to put a tax lien on your property, you don't own any property. You control it, but you don't own it. And that's the remedy to deal with those who would try to put a claim on your property.
Isn't this the same strategy that the rich use and the Congress uses, and as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They don't want this known very much, but they use it. And their object is to own nothing but control everything. You really don't own your house. You really don't own your car anyway. The state owns all that stuff. And so what you have to do is get an allodial title to all those things and place them in the unincorporated business trust. Then you can control them properly.
What's an allodial title?
low deal title is a superior title. In order to have a low deal title for your property, you must do a land patent and have the original land grant to the property. Now, I did one for my brother, and that was very easy. My great-great-grandfather owned the property, and the original land grant was signed by Ulysses S. Grant. And we brought that forward to my great-grandfather, and then my grandfather, and then my father, and then my brother. And that was the chain of title. And we declared once we post this information in the county bulletin board, and no one comes forward to enter a claim on this property, we have claimed the original grantor deed. Now, the grantor deed conveys the property. The warranty deed only conveys rights to the property. So we have to go back to the most recent grantor deed and bring that forward. And that's how you create an allodial title for your property.
Okay, so when you initiate this process, it's just not like over. You have to give a time frame for the government to respond, right?
Correct. Yeah. When you post this on the county bulletin board, you have to wait 60 days before you can make a claim. If no one comes forward and says, "Oh, I have a lien on this property from years ago," or "I have a claim against it," that very rarely happens. But we want to give the opportunity for it to take place so we can claim allodial ownership of that property.
So to go back to getting yourself out of the system, you have to take these documents and get them recognized by a judge, correct?
No, not by a judge. In order to do, when we do an American state national documents, you want to serve them on the Secretary of State of the state where you were born, and probably the state where you live, and the State Department. And when you do that, you create an administrative record. Now, in order for you to claim your own court, these documents must be properly served, and we do that through certified mail or registered mail. And they must be publicly published. And we can do that by having them recorded in the county recorder's office. And then you can file them in the court if you have a case pending, because you want to change your status from a slave to a free individual. So that's
some courts, some county recorders won't do that. Is that right? So you can shop around for a county recorder. Is that right?
Yeah. It doesn't matter what county. I've had people send their documents to me, and I've recorded them here in Utah. They're pretty they're receptive to all that. Salt Lake County isn't, but some of the counties around will accept them, and I can just give you the address of them and a phone number. You call them and say, "How much do you charge for this?" And they'll tell you, and you just mail them to them directly, and they'll mail them back to you. And that's another way to overcome that. Counties trying to exert their power and authority, which they don't really have. But instead of fighting with them and telling them you do this, you just find another county.
Yeah, my friend and Liberty luminary Ann Vandersteel actually went into Tucson, where I used to be, to be the county recorder, and they were very surprisingly. They were very cooperative in that.
Yes, most counties will be, and the smaller the county, the more cooperative they are because they want the revenue.
Gotcha. Now, a American state national is not a sovereign citizen. I've seen false law enforcement reports that have said that they are the same thing, and that is not the case. Correct? That's a contradiction.
Yeah, American state national is an inhabitant of the. In my case, I'm an inhabitant of the Utah Republic. If you want to be a sovereign, here's what the definition I've found is: you have to own your own property. You have to have a allodial title of your own property. You have to create your own utilities. You have to have your own money supply, your own money source. You can't use Federal Reserve notes. That puts you back into their system. And you have to have your own army. Now, I don't know anybody who's actually a sovereign under that definition.
Yeah, and I
So,
know,
ask your public servant when he says, "Oh, you're a sovereign." Well, what's the definition? What's your definition of a sovereign?
but the average cop, and including federal agents, don't understand this either. And I actually was a guest on Ann's show because there was a kid who was stopped by police, and there was already some backstory where the chief of the police in this little town was hassling the mom or something, and so the cop stopped him. He was actually in a parking lot parked, and he wouldn't roll down the window, and he was claiming American state national status or something to that effect, and he had a gun, and they ended up shooting him and killing him. And the thing I want to make clear to everybody as a former law enforcement official is you don't try and all of a sudden debate legalities with a law enforcement officer on the side of the road or in a parking lot like that. That's not the place where any of that happens. Correct?
No, we're gonna deal with all that administratively. Be kind to your public servants. Be kind to them. They're trying to do a job. Help them do it. They don't know who you are. They think you're a slave. And you can't argue with them about that out on the street. Accept their presentment and deal with it administratively.
And because they are a member of the system, they're going to enforce that system because they're an official member of it.
That's all they know. So we have two obligations when we take on American State National. One is to correct the mistakes made by our public servants, and two, to educate them. Now, you're not going to be able to do that out on the street when they do. You can do that in a judicial proceeding. And you attack his bonding company. If he has to pay a bond of a couple of $100,000, that's a good time to educate him. He won't do that again. So you go after his bond. Yeah, administratively. Absolutely.
So I want everybody to understand how Brent's laying this out is there's no violence here. There's no resistance here. There should be nothing happening on the side of the road. No argument. This is all done administratively, or it's done if they want to in a court of law, and very much in compliance. I'm happy to pay. I'm happy to comply. Just prove it to me. Just show it to me. That's
exactly right. Now that non-combative posture was very difficult for me because I'm a former Marine.
Yes.
So I had a problem with that at first, but I realized that is the best way to educate these people, and that's our job, is to help our public servants learn the correct way to deal with this stuff.
That's another thing I really like about your attitude, Brent, is there's no combative here. We want to help them. We want to educate them. We want to work with them.
Exactly.
And I think
they're my servants. They're my servants. I want to help them do it the right way.
So now let's talk about, so that doesn't mean that you got to drive around without a license plate or drive around without a driver's license or anything like that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, actually, I do that.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, but I have an administrative record. I sent a document to the state of Utah Department of Transportation. I sent documents to the United States Department of Transportation declaring my right to travel without these encumbrances. And so I applied for a U.S. Department of Transportation number through the U.S. Department of Transportation. When you don't engage in commerce on the roadways, you're not subject to licensing and licensing your car as long as it's private property. See, most cars are public property with a state license plate on them because they went into the dealer and they financed it. That makes it public.
So the first thing is to pay the car off or pay cash for the car.
Right. And get the manufacturer's statement of origin. And then once you've done that, put it into your unincorporated business trust. Your object is not to own anything, but control it.
And
that's what I did. Now I drive around with a plate that has the number from the U.S. Department of Transportation on it, and I haven't had any issues.
So that's the license plate with the U.S. Department of Transportation number on it.
Yes.
Yeah,
it says private property on it. It says private property, and it has the number on it. It says not for commercial use. It's a declaration saying I'm not engaged in commerce. Now
what
I
about,
had an
what about people who don't do that? What about for people who go through this, becoming an American state national, but don't do that? Can they still drive?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure, you can.
And they still have driver's license and they still have license plates.
Sure, you can do that. It's your choice. You can choose what tools you want to use to become free. Now, I had an accident on the freeway, on the interstate a couple of years ago, and the highway patrol investigated the accident. And they said, "Let me see your driver's license, proof of insurance, and registration." I said, "I'm not engaged in commerce. Here's my passport." So when you use this type of a license plate, you must use a passport, because that is your document for travel. You are no longer a driver, you are a traveler when you're not engaged in commerce.
And let's talk about that, because the federal government has now rolled out the Real ID, where it's not a yellow star, but it's a white star on a yellow background on everybody's driver's license if you want to use that for flying. And I've always advised, don't
yeah, the only way,
do that.
I keep a driver's license just in case I want
to. Because
but I use
talk about what they're doing. I put. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a driver's license in case I want to engage in commerce on the roadway. If I go rent a car, that's commerce, and so you have to have a driver's license for that. But when you're not engaged in commerce, declare yourself. I'm not engaged in commerce. Here's my passport. And the highway patrolman said, "That's okay. All right." And he took it back and he ran it through his computer system. And when he came back and gave me back my passport, he was very polite and courteous and very kind.
Why was that?
Because when he ran that through his computer, it told him who I was, an American state national. But I was kind to him.
Right.
If you're combative to them, they'll be combative back to you.
Or you're not compliant. I mean, because then this is what the DEA tried to do with me when they were going after me, is because then if they can't get you on that, they can get you for resisting.
Sure.
So the whole thing changes from the initial issue, which is straight, to all of a sudden you're resisting, because then you're fighting their fight. So Phantom 86 says, "I have a question. I have a class CDL so I can drive commercially. I can drive tractor trailers, tankers, and also Class B vehicles. How would this affect having an American state national status?
Doesn't affect it. When you're engaged in commerce, use the commercial tools. That's who you are.
Just like when you're using your driver's license, or just like when
That's
you're renting
right.
a car.
That's right. When you're not engaged in commerce, use your passport. If you're driving your family car and you've removed it from the system, that's who I am today.
Yeah,
I'm not engaged in commerce. Here's my passport.
We use our passports going through the airport.
Yeah.
Not getting the star on our driver's license. Give me some of that.
Correct.
Reserve your rights by explicit statement over your signature on the registration concept, on the registration contract. I'm not sure. Do you know what he's talking about? Reserve your rights by explicit statement over your signature on.
Yeah, without prejudice, UCC 1-308, you can use that. That reserves your rights. You're not compelled to perform on any contract you didn't enter into knowingly and willfully. If there's some hidden contract in there, you're exempt from that because you're reserving your rights under the Uniform Commercial Code. That's exactly what that is.
UCC 8. So
UCC 1-308.
UCC 1-308. And so that's what you're saying. And you're putting that over your signature is what give me some of that is saying. So you guys really know your stuff.
Anytime you have to enter into a government contract, that's what you want to put on your on the document. I have a stamp that I had made that stamps that on the. I stamp all the documents. If I was to write a check, I would stamp that on the check above my signature.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that one. Wow. I'll have to get that stamp too. Phantom 86 said I have a star on my license so I can go into military bases, federal buildings, places that are sensitive. They have to do background checks. Well, they're not doing a background check on you when you're going through by running your driver's license. Background check is a lot longer than that. It happens at confidential, secret, and top secret levels. But there's not a question there. So I guess we'll
use your passport as much as possible.
Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah.
Once you have changed your status and made that correction with the U.S. U.S. State Department, it should reflect on the computer. So when they read the barcodes off your passport, it should say that.
So Phantom 86 is saying South Carolina doesn't recognize or allow you to use a passport as identification while travel. I cannot believe that.
Yeah, I can't believe it either. But some states don't know. They try and exert their power. A passport is government identification that allows you to travel, whether you travel from one state to another or from one country to another.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it.
That's the whole point.
Supersedes a state driver's license. So I don't think you're right about that, Phantom 86. Now, some official may have said that to you, but I can tell you, traffic cops, highway cops, they do not know the law. Half the time, special agents don't know the law either.
That is correct. And it's our job to educate them.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Today, the government is everything the government asks you to sign is offered under the UCC. Give me some of that. Says. So how long does this whole process take to change your status and get out of the system? And how much does it cost? And what are the troubles along the way? 3-part question as we wrap up here.
Well, the troubles will be, we're creating tools. And if you go buy a chainsaw and don't know how to use it, that could be troubles. So we create these tools and we try and teach you how to administer them and use them to the most, to your most effectiveness. So it's all about knowledge and how to use the tools, how to use them and when to use them. And that's, but it doesn't take long to create these. It takes, if you were to hire me to create these documents for you, it takes me about a week to do that. And then I send them to you on email and you mail them out. You mail them out. I suggest you read them very carefully before you do that, because that's how you educate yourself, knowing what they say so that you can defend them down the road if you ever have to. These aren't silver bullets. They aren't cutting the wool. It's automatically done. These are just tools to use for you to become more free than you are now.
And what's your relationship with that American State Nationals website? Didn't they use your stuff, some of your stuff originally?
Yeah, I think they did. Are you talking about the guys in Tucson?
I'm just talking about the website. I don't know where they're at.
I don't know the website. Yeah, I don't get involved in any of these groups. I find that they're a little too combative for me, some of them. And so I help them whenever they call on me, but I don't join them. I don't become a member of them for that very purpose. They want to take the stance of, hey, I'm not subject, so I'm not going to comply. And I think like I said, the scriptures say, agree with thine adversary quickly if you want to stay out of trouble. And that's good advice.
Wise advice. So do you think it's best for people to try and do this on their own, or have an expert like you do it?
It's whatever they're comfortable with. If you feel comfortable in doing it, it's not. There's a lot of different groups out there that have different language for being American State National, and that's okay. It's your intent.
Oh, you're freezing up.
My documents, I include a notice of repudiation, an affidavit of American, a declaration of status, and I use the American and I put in a peace declaration documents.
And what? Oh, you're freezing up.
That's been very effective.
What's the peace declaration?
Oh,
he's frozen up. Well, we were wrapping up anyway. We are just about done. Bandwidth is the issue on Brent's end. Yeah, that could be. He's a dinosaur more so than me with that. But there is that you're at peace, that you're not at war with anybody. Sorry we lost you there, Brent. I don't see any comments on X. And I think I've answered all of the comments on Rumble. So let me know how you guys want to proceed. Oops, he's off. He's gone. If you'd like to see a seminar like we were doing, collapsing the coming collapse seminars where you get into more detail, or if this is good enough for you, you want to reach Brent, it's Brent, BRENT 10 at gmail.com, Brent10 at gmail.com. But anyway, I thought that was very important to have, and that's whom I've used for this and advised for this. And I think there's a lot of subtleties to it, so I wouldn't want to do it on my own because I'm certainly not an expert in that area. So remember, it didn't end on July 4th, 1776. It began in April when servants became warriors, colonists and native became militia, militia became soldiers, and soldiers became an army. fighting for a country yet unborn, and winning. Oh, there he's back. Okay, well, we'll get you back.
I got bumped off for some reason.
Oh, well, that happens. That happens.
Yeah.
I was just wrapping anyway, but yeah, Phantom has put your email in there. Brent, no, that's wrong, Phantom 86. It's Brent10, BRENT10 at gmail.com if you want to reach. So I was just wrapping up. In conclusion, what do you have to advice for our listeners and watchers?
Okay, I got a little philosophy for you. He is truly a fool who trusts his soul to a preacher, his health to a doctor, his rights to a lawyer, his freedom to a politician, and his money to a banker.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, there we go. You got it right now. Well, I thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure you'll be getting contacted by some folks soon. No space.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, for having me. I appreciate it.
And thanks for all your help. We, I'll tell everybody, whenever I have a question about this stuff, Brent answers the phone right away, and is never too, answers right away. Is never too busy to answer the questions. It's all nice and calm, and I just love that approach.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. God bless. Okay, so there, you finally got it right there. Give me some of that. So remember, freedom is taken, but discipline begets freedom, develops duty, replaces addiction with independence, reaction with action, activates dependability. Dependability requires availability. Availability trumps ability and begets consistency. Consistency births integrity, and integrity is resiliency. And in times of terror and tribulation, integrity begets endurance, which begets existence. And in the worst of times, just existence is resistance. Freedom is never given. It is earned, fought for, won, and taken. So take it.